So hey guys, in this video we're gonna look on how I did this. You will learn all the VFX tab in Blender. So let's begin it with the VFX tab. I'm gonna open it up. Okay, so here we go. We're gonna click open and we're gonna go to the video. I'll put the link to the same video in the description down below. Let's open up the video and see what we can do with it. Okay, so first of everything, we're gonna set some rendering settings. So go to render, color management, and change AGX to standard. So it will gain the colors again. I'm gonna change the frame rate to 30 frame per second, and I'm just gonna go for a prefetch because it will just load the footage into the RAM and it will play fluently. Okay, so I'm gonna set the motion model to perspective and I'm gonna click detect features, but I'm gonna click normalize first because if the lighting shift occurred, it will not affect the tracker. So I'm gonna click detect feature and I'm gonna make the threshold to something like 0.7, maybe 0.07, which is perfect. I'm gonna track forward and I'm gonna track it like that. Okay, so here we go. We have done our tracking. Now it's time again to click on the detect feature to add more trackers into the shot. And let's track backward to track it backward so we have more information for the camera movement in the shot. Okay, so now it's time for solving it. I'm gonna go to solve tab. I'm gonna just gonna check for the perspective change, which is in between 80 and 180. I'm gonna make keyframe A to 80 and I'm gonna make the keyframe B to 180, and then we are gonna click focal length, optical center, and because we don't know them. Okay, I'm gonna click solve camera motion and it will solve the motion right away. So it's 1.18 and it have an error. So let's fix it by cleaning up. I'm gonna click filter tracks and I'm gonna just increase the track threshold to 7. And as you can see, we have 16 problematic track. I'm gonna delete them. I'm gonna re-click the solve camera motion, and now I think we will be fixing the problem. So it's 0.46, which is perfect. And now scroll down, click set as background, and we're going to set is as a set up a tracking scene like that. So now it's time to orient the plan. So in order to do that, I'm gonna select one of the tracker and it's the origin. So click set origin and now select three of the trackers to set the floor. I'm gonna click these three and I think this is not a perfect one because it's not aligning with the shot. So I'm just gonna select other trackers that can do this job perfectly. I'm gonna select this one and then that one and this one. I'm gonna click floor and as you can see it's perfectly oriented with the shot and this is what we want. So now it's time to set up our 3D scene. I'm gonna go to layout and I'm gonna go to camera view, and if we just delete the cube and try to play it, now we will be able to see how it is. I'm gonna move to the first frame and see is it okay or not. I'm gonna play it and see. Yeah, I think it's perfect and it's sticking into the ground and this is what we want. So now what we can do, we can turn on motion tracking for the overlay because we want to see where are our trackers. So we will be able to add any other CG objects into the scene which will be perfectly stick into the position wherever we want in the shot. So let's just play it and I think it's perfect. Now I'm gonna go to this drop down. I'm gonna click motion tracking. I'm gonna increase the size. So we will be able to see these motion trackers on the scene so we can add CG objects into it. As you can see, it's perfectly making the shape of the shot and this is what we wanted. I'm gonna go to camera view and I'm gonna go to the first frame maybe and I'm gonna click this tracker. As you can see it's over there and I'm gonna click shift A cursor to select it and I'm gonna click shift A and I will add a cube, maybe shift A mesh and a cube. Okay, so I'm just gonna place it right there to just match the perspective or to match the CG objects in the shot. I'm gonna just scale it up. I'm gonna go to face selection mode and I'm gonna move this down like that. Try to match it with the background stuff so we'll have an accurate track. I'm gonna move it down and I'm gonna scale it like that. Okay, so I think it's okay. If I play it, we have something perfect. And now it's time to add other CG objects. I'm actually adding shadow catchers to there. So if we add any other CG object, it will cast shadow over there. And we will have an overall idea where are the objects in a 3D scene. So I'm going to add a plane here. And I'm going to scale it on y-axis like that. And I'm just going to make these tube-like structure out there wherever people moves around and go into the station. I'm gonna rotate it on y-axis, and I'm just gonna move it like that. And okay, so now we're gonna place it on the right spot by moving it into an x-axis. I'm gonna go to camera view, and I'm gonna move it down like maybe. Okay, I'm gonna go to edit mode. I'm gonna go to vertex selection, and I think I'm gonna move it into y-axis like that. And I'm also gonna go to edge selection maybe, or maybe I can select face and extrude it upward, so we will have an overall idea of how the background stuff looks like. I'm gonna move it slightly into x-axis so it's not intersecting with the other layers. I'm gonna delete that face and also that one, and maybe the background face over there, backside face. I'm gonna delete it. Okay, so I'm gonna go to camera view, and I'm gonna play it and see how does it turns out. I'm gonna move it into y-axis like that, and maybe I can scale it down on y-axis. And if you play it, as you can see, it's perfectly sticking into there, and this is what we wanted. So I'm just gonna move, and I'm gonna click it. Maybe I can a little bit align it to the background shot. I'm gonna box select them, and I think I have messed up something. Okay, I'm gonna box select all of them, so they all of them moves the same. I'm gonna move it to here like that, and I'm gonna select these three, and I'm gonna move it downward like that. And I'm also gonna go for these three of them here. I'm gonna move them into y-axis like that, and I think it's perfect now. So now it's time to add other CG objects into the scene, and we have to make it even better. Okay, I think I have messed up something out here, and I think I'm gonna fix it. So you can just follow the same rules here, and you can just add objects like that. And it is something very, handy, because we can add any kind of object into our scene by the trackers we have added in the tracking scene. And I think I'm gonna rotate it on y-axis to match the background, and I'm gonna move it to there. And let's see, from a y-axis, so I'm gonna move it into x-axis like that, and I think it's okay. So I'm just going to scale it up on, maybe I can change it to local, and I'm gonna scale it on x-axis like that, and I'm gonna move it into x-axis, and I'm gonna move it into y-axis like that. And okay, so this is what we wanted. I'm gonna scale it up. Okay, I think it's fine, and maybe I can slightly rotate it to match the perspective with it. And we are going to make it. Okay, I'm gonna go to y-axis. I'm gonna click Shift D, duplicate it, and then I'm gonna rotate it on z-axis on 180 degree, or maybe I can just rotate it on y-axis like that. I'm gonna move it into here. Okay, so I'm just making an overall shape of the background scene, because if it's perfectly aligned to it, you can add any CG objects in there, or maybe you can just turn this out into a CG object and add texture into it, and that's it. This is very handy and easy, because Blender is super cool. If I did it with After Effects, maybe I was not having that much freedom to work on this sort of project, because uh, After Effects don't give that much features. So I'm gonna add a look at here. Maybe I'm just gonna try to match it with it, but I think I'm gonna re-add a cube object into here to actually replicate it. So I'm just gonna delete, maybe. Okay, I'm gonna delete it. I'm gonna hit Control Z, and I'm going to add a cube. I'm going to scale it on z-axis. I'm going to rotate it on y-axis. I'm going to move it to here. I'm going to scale it in on y-axis. I'm going to scale. Okay, let's just move it to here. Okay, I think it's perfect, and I'm going to save our file, because if you don't save your work, you're going to miss it. Okay, so I'm just going to move it slightly down like that. Okay, so let's play it. Okay, so I think I need some objects over here. I'm going to select it and add a cube here like that to just replicate the background pillar, a smaller pillar out there, and I'm going to scale it on z-axis like that. Okay, so I think it's totally fine. I'm going to duplicate it, and maybe I can move it into x-axis like that. and I'm just making shadow catchers. It's actually shadow catcher to actually catch the shadow of all the CG objects in the scene. And you can also take it as a mask because you're also going to mask things to add things behind the object. Okay, so I'm just gonna add an object into here and I'm gonna scale it on the z-axis like that. And I'm gonna just go to edit mode, and I think I'm gonna delete the background faces by hitting X and deleting them. I'm gonna go to camera view and I'm gonna go for just moving those edges up and down, and maybe I can move it into x-axis like that. And this is very handy, I think it's pretty easy to replicate those objects, and we're going to move it into x-axis like that. And I maybe we can move it up slightly, and I'm gonna go for this one, maybe slightly up like that. And I'm gonna, oh, where is it going? Oh, I think we have to set up the ending clipping of the camera. So I'm gonna select the camera, go to camera setting, and make the ending clipping something like a very high number. And now we will be able to see things very far away. So I'm just gonna scale it on z-axis, and maybe we can move it away like that. And I'm gonna click E, extrude it, and move it like that. Okay, so I think it's perfect. And I'm gonna select this one, and maybe I can extrude it into backward. Okay, I'm gonna move it. Okay, so it's totally fine, and this is what we wanted to do. And I'm gonna select the top edges, and I'm going to hit E to extrude them, and then move it them into y-axis, and then again extrude it on z-axis and move it on y-axis like that. And now it's time to just align it with the background. I'm gonna add a loop cut here maybe, and just grab it to here, and I'm gonna select those two edges, and I'm gonna open a new window so I will be able to see it. So I'm just gonna extrude them like that, and see these and the other window to actually match with it. So I think I'm going to select this edge, and I'm going to move it to that one to align with the background. And now it's time to select those faces maybe. I can rotate, I'm going to duplicate them and shift D and rotate them into other side. And now I'm going to go for a cube here. I'm going to add a cube into the ending point of this object, and I'm gonna move this up like that, and I'm gonna align it with the background. So I'm actually making the top of the station, so I'm just gonna extruding it on y-axis, or maybe moving it. And I'm gonna go to wireframe. I'm gonna select the drop one, bottom one, and I'm gonna move it downward. I'm gonna select this one and move it into y-axis like that. Okay, so I'm just going to select this edge, and maybe I can move it into x-axis, or maybe I can select both of them and move them into x-axis like that. Okay, so I'm just gonna select that edge face and move it towards. Okay, so I'm gonna select this edge, and I'm gonna move it down to align it with the background. It's pretty handy and easy to do. It's a job of beginners, so it's not very hard to explain every single step. Just look at these what I'm doing and just copy it. Maybe if you can, I'm gonna move it, and maybe I can move it downward. I'm just copying the footprint of the other object, and I'm just gonna move it towards that axis. Okay, so I'm gonna select the top edge, and I'm gonna apply the scale and hit E, and then scale it up, scale it on y-axis to make it perfect. And again we're gonna click E, then again E, scale it down, and scale it down on y-axis to actually make it rectangular. And I'm gonna extrude it up like that, like that. I'm gonna move it down slightly. Okay, so I think I missed something up. So I'm gonna go to y-axis, and I'm gonna box select the other side. And I think if I just move it into, I'm gonna select this one, and I think we have not aligned it. So I'm gonna move it into y-axis to align it with the top of the station. And I'm gonna select the top face, and I'm gonna move it up. So maybe we can just extrude it on z-axis and scale it up like that. And I'm gonna scale it on y-axis maybe. and I'm gonna hit E to extrude it, and I'm gonna hit E and scale it down, and again scale it on y-axis, and again E. Maybe we have very scaled it down, so I'm just gonna control Z, scale it slightly down like that, and we're going to click E to extrude it up. Okay, so I think it's perfect. Now just move it slightly to match it with the background layer, and we are set. I'm gonna add a loop cuts there, by control R. I'm gonna add 7 loop cuts. I'm gonna select the middle one and turn on proportional editing with the sphere, and I'm gonna move the middle one upward, so we have this curved, face. I'm just gonna align it with the background, and I'm gonna select all of the top faces. Again, hit E, scale them on y-axis like that, and we're gonna click E to extrude it upward like that. And I'm gonna go to side view and select that small tiny face, and I'm gonna move it into the other side. I'm gonna extrude it like that to actually fit it in. So I think I'm gonna select one of these, and I'm gonna move this up to actually align it with the background. So as you can see, we have set up all those small assets that will actually replicate the shadows, and they will actually cast shadows on itself, and they will not be shown in the final render. Well, for the sake of this tutorial, I'm gonna add I'm going to show you how to add those cylindrical shapes, or you can also call it how to add lights into the scene, or how to mask out lights and add objects behind them. So I'm going to add a cylinder object into it, and I'm just going to align it with it. So actually it's also going to be a shadow catcher, which will actually mask out all of those stuff, and we will be able to add objects behind these light. So I'm just gonna go to edit mode, and I'm gonna select vertices, and maybe I can extrude them like that. I'm gonna hit E maybe, and I'm gonna scale it down by clicking Shift Z to only scale it down on X and Y axis. And I'm gonna scale it slightly up. It's really up to you. Yeah, if you're in different situation and different light system, they might vary in different lights. So you can just play around with the values to make them perfect according to the background. I'm gonna select these, and maybe I can scale it down on X and Y axis by clicking Shift Z. I'm also gonna scale it down, and what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna click E and extrude it upward, and I'm gonna move up like that, and maybe we can move extrude it up, and that's what we can do. I'm gonna extrude it up like that, and maybe I can move it around and hit E to extrude it and scale it down like that. Okay, so I'm gonna move it, and I'm gonna extruding it. Well, it's totally up to you. If you are facing the different situation, you can just replicate, or you can just copy out the object to mask it out. So I'm just doing it according to my situation. And by the way, I'm gonna put the link to the same footage, so you will be able to follow along the tutorial, and it will be easier for you. Okay, so I'm just gonna extrude it upward, and I'm gonna move it like that, and I'm gonna scale it down like that. Maybe I can extrude it upward, maybe I can scale it up like that, and I'm just gonna move it around. I'm gonna extrude it. Okay, something like this. Oh shit, oh sorry, I clicked space by mistake. Okay, so we're just going to the same position, and as you can see, it's already sticking into it, and this is what we wanted. And it's actually will mask this object, and we will be able to add any objects behind this object, so it will feel realistic. And this is a wild trick used by different YouTubers like in Hubert, which is a great VFX artist. I really like his work. I follow him on every site because he makes some cool tutorial and some cool artworks. So, okay, I'm gonna turn on all of the objects, and as you can see, we have replicated all of these things into a CGI object, and it's actually shadow catchers. So I'm gonna select all of them and make them only one object. So we will not have to deal with so many objects in the scene. I'm gonna select all of those objects, and we'll make them a shadow catcher, or maybe I can add a holdout material to them, so actually they will be masked out, and we will be able to add objects in front of them and behind of them, so it will feel realistic. Select all of them and hit Ctrl J to join them, and they will become one mesh. Okay, so now it's time to set up some ground. I'm going to delete the default plane. and I'm just gonna delete it. I'm gonna shift A. I'm gonna add another plan, and maybe I can scale it up like that. And we're going to scale it like that, very big, because if you want to add so many objects around, you have to have the same amount of your shadow catcher out there. And maybe you can slightly rotate it on y-axis to fit it with the background like that. And yeah, it's actually fitting in, and this is what we wanted. And now you can literally add any kind of objects, but well, for the sake of this tutorial, I have found a collection on Sketchfab. You can also download model from there. I will put the link to the same model. Okay, so I'm just gonna select the plane. I'm gonna go to its visibility. Maybe I can change the rendering to cycles, and I'm gonna make it a GPU compute. I'm gonna turn on the noise, and then go to object setting of this object, and I'm gonna make it a shadow catcher. So it will just cast shadows. I'm gonna select the other object, and I'm gonna make it a shadow catcher also. So it will also just cast shadows and not be shown in the render. And we can just go for adding different other models to the scene. So I'm gonna save the file. Maybe I can show you. Okay, so here is the collection. I will put the link. All of the models are totally free, and this is a sci-fi collection which contain all of those sci-fi assets that you will need for this project. And as you can see, you have endless amount of objects to add into scene and to make it very high detailed and complex. You literally have any kind of object, and you have access to a high quality model for free. And I will put the link to the same collection. You will be able to use it. So this is something I really liked about Sketchfab. Okay, so now it's time to import this model. I have downloaded some of them. I'm gonna go to import. I'm gonna move to a GLB because I have downloaded them in a GLB format. I'm gonna select one of the model. I think not that one. I'm gonna import another one by going to import GLB, and I'm gonna select the destroyer. Here we go. Maybe this one, not that one, or that one. Okay. So I'm just gonna scale it up like that, and I'm gonna move it to a side, so actually I can eliminate other objects. I'm gonna select one of the object by clicking shift and then hit Ctrl J, so it will just eliminate the meshes from the empties. So as you can see, and we have empties here. Select them and delete them. Okay, so this is actually the objects. I'm gonna scale it up like that, and maybe I can go to top view. I'm gonna rotate it like that, something like that, and I'm gonna move it towards that one. And I'm gonna go to camera view, and I'm going to scale it up. Okay, so I think I'm gonna rotate it on y-axis to actually fit it in. I'm gonna go to edit mode of this object. I'm gonna go to wireframe. I'm gonna select this one. I'm gonna delete it by selecting it, and I'm gonna move it up slightly, or maybe I can rotate it. As you can see, we have added a CG object into a scene. I'm gonna move it into x-axis and a y-axis. And as you can see, it's already sticking into there. I'm gonna go to material view, and it's already having so many high detailed material. Okay, so how to set up a final thing? Before doing anything, we need a light to light up the scene. So I will put the link to an HDRI if you're interested in the same HDRI, and I will use it right away. So I'm gonna add an environment texture into world, and I'm gonna go to my HDRI pick. So I'm gonna add an HDRI that can do this job perfectly for us. I'm gonna select it. I think this one, and I'm gonna go to render view and see how does it comes out. So I'm just gonna click render. I'm gonna save it first and then go to render view. As you can see, we don't have anything, so go to render setting. Under film, make it transparent. And as you can see, okay, I'm gonna select the camera, go to camera settings. Under background, you can just increase the opacity of your footage. Okay, so as you can see, we have added a CG object successfully, and it's already sticking into there. And this is what we wanted. So here's the problem. I'm gonna select our shadow catcher, go to edit mode. I'm gonna go for edge selection maybe. Okay, so I'm gonna select the edge here, maybe this one, and I'm gonna move it down slightly. As you can see, it's fixed now, and as you can see, it's already sticking into there, and this is what we wanted. So you can just follow the same rule and you are good to go. So I'm gonna save it. So I think we can add more objects into our scene. Like I'm gonna add a shop object into here. I'm not in FBX. I have downloaded all of the objects in GLB. So I'm just gonna select one of the GLB format, and I'm gonna go for that one, maybe not that one, and I'm just selecting one of the objects that can work for us. I have selected this big monsters building. You can just move it into x-axis, and maybe you can scale it down. Select one of these, Control J, and select the mesh and hit Alt P to just clear the parent. I'm going to select all of the empties and delete them. So I'm going to select the mesh, move it into x-axis and scale it down like that. So I'm going to move it towards y-axis and I'm going to go for just snapping into there. If I go to camera view and I'm going to move it into y-axis maybe, or maybe into x-axis like that. I'm going to go to camera view. I'm going to move it up like that, and if we just play, or maybe we can move it towards that direction. And now if you play it, as you can see, it's already been there and it's already looking very good. You can add an endless amount of object into scene to make it more complex. You can also add animation into the object in the scene to actually fill it inside there to make it organic. I'm gonna save it, and maybe I can import other models like the shop model. Maybe I'm gonna go for this. I'm just selecting one of the model that I have downloaded from Sketchweb. I will put the link to all of the model in the description down below if you're interested in. So I'm just gonna go for this food and I'm gonna scale it up like that. I think I'm gonna move it to the side and I'm gonna select one of the object, hit Control J, Alt P, eliminate it, and I'm gonna move it towards x-axis, scale it up, and Shift Ace, snap it into the cursor and just scale it down maybe. I'm gonna move it into Z axis. Maybe I can rotate it and move it towards here. And I think this is going to be our final object because I don't want to make it very longer, because it's totally up to you what object you want to add. And I have just shown you the whole process and how things works in Blender. So I'm just gonna move this around and see how does it comes out. I'm gonna move it down like that, and I'm gonna play it, and as you can see it's already sticking out there, and this is what we wanted. I'm gonna save the file. Maybe I'm gonna go to this other layer, background, and delete the background layer and just set it to foreground. And okay, so hit Control S. Now it's time to render out. So first of all, we're gonna make the sample to 50 for the render, and I'm just go. And now I'm gonna render an image to actually show you how to composite an image in Blender. So let's see what we can do with it. Okay, so it's actually rendering. Let's wait for this. Okay, so it's actually rendered out. Now go to compositing. There are so many nodes going on, so we need to delete some of them because they're actually slowing down our rendering process. So I'm just gonna select these three and I'm gonna delete them. I'm gonna move this towards here. I'm gonna delete this one also. So we just have two nodes remaining. One is the movie clip and one is just the render layer. I'm gonna connect the image with the top socket and I'm gonna connect the render layer with the bottom socket. So as you can see, we're good to go and we have added our CG object into our live footage successfully. And I'm gonna go and save the file. I'm going to show you my previous project. I have added so many objects downloaded from the same collection, and you can also download all of them and just use them. And as you can see, they're so very detailed and you can also use them. So guys, thanks for watching. If you want to get some content, just hit the subscribe button, like this video, share it with your friend, and maybe you can do a comment if you have any question. Thanks for watching.